All right, everybody, thanks for joining us. My name is UltraDavid.
And I'm James Chen.
We're going to be talking about the Masters Series from Canada Cup Gaming and the 7 players who are invited to be in it this coming weekend in Calgary, Canada.
That's right. It's an event that's been building up for a couple of years now. All the previous winners of the Capcom Cup since 2010 have all qualified for this event. There's also an extra qualifier from Wednesday Night Fights put on by Level Up.
Right.
And then also Evolution 2014 champion Luffy was also invited as well. And there's going to be an 8th player here, but we don't know who that is yet because the final qualification spot's going to be at an open tournament right before the Master Series that very same weekend.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There'll be some good players in that open tournament as well.
So the 8th player is definitely not going to be any slouch either. So
Absolutely, yeah. So the 7 players who have been invited, who will be there for sure, are Daigo, Kazunoko, Luffy, Pepe Dai, Snake Eyes, Xian, and Xiaohai.
Yep. And today we are going to be going over Xian here.
He won Canada Cup in 2012.
That's right. And that wasn't even the year of Xian either. That was
That was the year before.
Yeah, that was like when it first kind of he showed himself to the world that he was capable of winning majors. I remember him winning that tournament, and I remember the celebration on stage. You know, Z went up there and they gave him a big hug. They were super happy about that. And then 2013 happened, and that's when Shin basically started dominating all over the place, including winning Evolution itself. So Shin, obviously, super strong player, very, very smart guy.
Yeah, he has a very good sense of spacing. He had great whiff punishes, just great footsies, and always turns everything into slaps and has great execution.
Yeah.
With Gen, and of course we knew him for Gen for a couple of years, and more recently as Gen, in a lot of people's minds is not quite as good in Ultra as he was in the previous version of Street Fighter 4, including Shen's mind. Shen has brought in Poison,
yes,
and he brought back Dalsum from his early Street Fighter 4 days, just recently in Canada Cup. So he's sort of developed into a multi-character threat.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he brought out Dalsum specifically for Daigo.
Oh yeah.
Because obviously Dalsum does well against Shoto characters, right? So I don't know if I don't know if he's going to play Dalsum a lot against other people, but that's the beauty of a 1st to 7.
Right.
You can lose the first 2 games, go to Dalsum, and then all of a sudden Dalsum's working, and you're like, you know what? Good.
Yeah.
And then win 7 games in a row with that. Yeah. So, that's what makes this format so interesting, and especially like we said, round robin, there's not a single player he's not going to be playing against. So I can imagine him busting out a lot of Dalsum against Daigo, for example, right? So,
Right. They have a lot, or he has a lot of experience against a lot of these players because he's been around for a while. A lot of these players have too. So he's not going to get caught off guard by a lot of people. We mentioned his mid-range game. Great offense, very good with sort of tech and figuring out setups. And setups aren't quite as big a deal in Ultra as they were previously, but he still has them. It's still important.
Yeah, he's a very scientific player.
Very scientific player. Yeah, I do feel like he has kind of an issue with playing his own defense.
Yeah.
I don't think that's his strength. Even on defense, he tends to be active. And that works in quite a few situations, but it can also be a liability.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just in game, but even outside the game, I think his quote defense is a little bit weaker because I've seen him get to positions where it kind of looks like he loses confidence in himself, especially against matchups that he doesn't particularly like, such as Zangief, and such. But we'll get into that in a little bit more later. But having said that, obviously Evo champion, he's won tons of tournaments. He did really well at Capcom Cup. I mean, actually, 2 years in a row, Capcom Cup, he's gotten 2nd place, right? He lost to Sakonoko the first year, and then he lost to Momochi the next year. And, getting 2nd place in those kind of fields is ridiculous. He may not have won them, but, I mean, 2nd place 2 years in a row pretty much means you've done the best at Capcom Cup out of everybody. So
he's a great player. Well, let's talk about the matchups.
Yes.
So first up, let's talk about Daigo.
Yeah.
Now, they won at Daigo won at Capcom Pro Tour Asia qualifiers. And in fact, in previous sets that they had, Daigo had won. In fact, in a long set, he blew Xian up, if you recall.
So at Tokyo Game Show, Mad Catz put on the special exhibition between Daigo and Xian because Xian had won EVO. And so they wanted to see how that matchup would go between the two, and Daigo blew him up 10-0. And then at that Capcom Pro Tour Asia, Daigo blew up Xian in grand finals like 7-2 or something like that. And then at Capcom Cup, out came Dalsum, and Xian won that one 2-0.
Right,
Daigo.
right.
Yeah.
So the Dalsum pick was a great one because I don't think anybody was expecting.
No.
Dalsum as a character does fine against Evil Ryu.
Mm-hmm.
I would hesitate to call it a big win, but it's much better than most of Sim's matchups, certainly.
Yeah,
And Daigo has expressed in previous interviews that that Dalsum was one of the characters that he most fears.
Yeah, and he's had a lot of trouble against Dalsums in the past. Filipino champ, for example, has defeated Daigo at many events.
Including Evo this year.
Yeah, including Evo this year. And in fact, Xian went to Filipino champ for Capcom Cup to understand that matchup even more. And it certainly worked out in his favor. Yeah. So this is going to be super interesting to me. Because if Xian just goes with Dalsum, I don't expect Daigo to switch to Yun necessarily. He's on record for saying that he just finds the match boring or something. But I mean, there's a lot on the line here.
Yeah.
So, and you got a first to 7. So, you know, losing 7 matches in a row, Ryu versus Dalsum's not fun. So, you know, I'm curious to see if Daigo does switch or not. But also, even if he did stick with Ryu, I don't see Xian being able to dominate with Dalsum for 7 matches, for even 13 matches in a row. You know, I feel like Daigo can figure that out pretty well. Daigo has had a history of also blowing up Dalsums, you know, in Street Fighter 4 tournaments. Yeah. You know, he's had both sides of the coin on that one. So, yeah, this one's going to be interesting. It's hard for me not to give the edge to Daigo just because it's a first to 7.
Yeah.
But
I hear you.
But the Dalsum pick is the big.
That's the wild card, man. Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Okay, so Xian versus Kazunoko. Kazunoko beat Xian 3-1 at Southeast Asia majors, where ultimately Kazunoko ended up winning.
Mm-hmm. And this is kind of one of those premier examples of what you mentioned in terms of Xian's defense not necessarily being the strongest. Kazunoko, very oppressive player, lots of offense. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by the 3-1 victory, and you know, I have a funny feeling that Kazunoko could probably do really well here. Now, I don't know if Xian had Poison back then.
Poison. Don't remember.
Poison it's a good choice for Xian because Poison plays very differently than Gen. So there's a good pair of characters. Yeah. She can control the pace a little bit more.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Xian use Poison against Kazunoko to try to control that space with her fireballs and kind of force Yun more into, you know, not being able to go as crazy. Just forcing him to calm down a little bit so that he can control the pace a little bit more.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah, so this one, again, hard for me to call because I don't know who Xian's going to go with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Xian versus Luffy.
Xian is actually one of the only people to beat Luffy in the past 6 months.
Xian has had more success against Luffy than anybody else has.
Yep, the only person to beat him at EVO.
Yes.
Luffy was sent to losers before, like pretty early on by Xian.
Yeah.
You know, and then at Capcom Cup, he beat Luffy in winners. Was it winners finals? I think it was.
They played in winners finals.
Yeah. So he beat Luffy there as well. So Xian has a lot of success against him.
He's proven it.
Yeah,
which very few people have done this year. With the last, now it's next year, but in the last calendar year, it's been like that. Mm-hmm. So I would think that Xian would stick with what he's been doing. Mm-hmm. You know, he had just great spacing. Yeah. Against Luffy the last time that they played.
It's hard to
with punishes. Luffy has great spacing game and is so slippery that he can get to one spot or another very quickly, and so it's tough to maintain. But Xian did it.
Yeah.
And you know, it's on Luffy to alter things. Mm-hmm. And this is a long enough set that if Luffy comes in having studied things a lot and having sort of new tricks or new spacings or something like that, then there's enough time, I think, for Xian to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is that in Capcom Cup, I remember 4 out of 4 rounds, I believe it was, that Xian won by whiff punishing a slide.
Right.
Rose's slide, low strong hands, super, ultra, and such. So it'll be really interesting to see if Luffy tries to adjust and not, and you know, try to space the slide out a little bit more and such. So
yeah, okay. Shen against Pepidai. I couldn't find an instance where they played, but Fuerte versus Gen, Poison, or Sim. Hard to expect that he'll go with Sim. But Gen and Poison seem like they're pretty evenish. Maybe Poison does pretty well. Now, on Twitter, I saw Shen post that he was looking for a character to beat Fuerte. He said, hey, anybody know which character beats Fuerte?
I wonder why.
Right, because he's planning for exactly this. And on the one hand, that worries me a little bit to not have a character for Fuerte yet, because that was just a week and a half before Capcom, before a Master Series, and so that's a little worrying. But on the other hand, he's actively looking for what to do, and that's good. It means he's putting in the time, at least now, to figure something out, to sort of see what he can do, and that's good. Yeah,
but again, this comes back to what we talked about in the Kazunoko matchup situation again. So the defense might not necessarily be as strong as some of the other players here. So I feel like Pepidai does have a potential to surprise him, catch him off guard, you know, maybe just go on some crazy vortexy offense and then just kind of put Shin into a bad position. You know, if Shin goes down 3-1, 4-1, you know, maybe he starts getting a little discouraged and stuff like that. But having it be a longer set, you know, he could possibly make the adjustment and maybe reverse things on Pepidai. It really just, I think, will come down to Shen's mental strength a lot in this matchup, more than anything. So,
okay, Shen versus Snake Eyes. This is, look, Shen has not had success against Zangief. He lost 2 Zangiefs at EVO. One of them was Snake Eyes. He lost to Zangiefs at a couple of other tournaments. And then he lost to Snake Eyes again.
At TFC.
At the Fall Classic. In Grand Finals.
And pretty badly, too. I mean, he did well at first.
The first set.
So he was in winners, Snake Eyes was coming from losers. And Shen, the first set, he switched around with characters, even messed with Sagat. And he lost it 2-3. So he still was very close. In fact, he had tournament point a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken. But then in the second set, it just seemed like he got mentally defeated, and he just lost 0-3. Like really, really quickly.
Last game I remember not being good.
And what actually kind of is a little bit tougher now is that Zangief got a couple of nerfs in this one, but one of the key buffs that he got was EX banishing flat stands people up. And so if Shin wants to rely on Sagat now, that fight is not as good as it used to be, because EX green hand through low tiger is going to stand him up for red focus.
So I do think that Gief is better against Sagat than he's ever been in Street Fighter 4. So I don't think that that's a great pick, which means that I really think that Shin has to have some specific anti-Gief character. If he's going to have a specific anti-Shoto character like Dhalsim,
then even an anti-Fuerte character.
Exactly, right. Then I think that there's something he needs for playing against Gief too.
And to Shen's credit, though, he is really good at playing a lot of different characters. As we've seen, right? So he's had 3 main characters in tournaments of recent, in the past couple of months. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him bust out like some anti-Zangief character.
Hope he does. Shen versus Xiaohai. So they played in Topanga A-League. This was in, I think, 2012, AE 2012. Previous version of Street Fighter 4. In 2013, Xiaohai won 12-10.
Oh, wow.
And in 2014, Xiaohai won 10-8.
Must be a win by 2 rule.
That's what I assume.
Which means that they've all been super close.
Very close. Exactly right.
And again, because these 2 players, more than any of the other ones in Canada Cup here, have the most characters they can go to. Right? That makes this one super hard to call. Because if Xiaohai goes with Evil Ryu, here comes Dhalsim. And then Xiaohai will go to Cammy or Yun. And then now I've got to switch back to Gen or Poison or something. This one could be... I can totally picture this one being one of those... I win, change characters. I win, change characters. I win, change characters. I win, just this loop,
Which means, in those cases... the first game is super important.
Yes.
Because whoever wins has a big advantage. They get to react more than the other one does. So I would love to see a blind pick at the start.
I can't imagine it would go any other way.
Yeah, like, a blind pick meaning where both of them sort of predetermine their character selection so that there's no on-screen
reaction.
Yeah, you can't move your little cursor around different characters. You already have your set, right. And that's a way to sort of avoid playing these on-screen guessing games as to which character is going to end up. I think that would be a good choice for both of them.
Yeah,
so I'd like to see
sure.
that.
But again, so hard for because, like you said, it might just come down to whoever wins the first game.
Yeah,
and then just from there it'll be a counter pick loop at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah. But Xian, again, super strong player. Absolutely capable of playing multiple characters, which makes him a threat. So, and like I said, he's done well at some of these big events. Second place at 2 Capcom Cups in a row, champion of EVO.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and by the way, very close to doing super well at EVO this year, but for a couple of Zangiefs.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of them, just like miracle win, if you recall Snake Eyes' win, was ridiculous.
0.001 second win.
So very close to having done well just the entire year.
Honestly, like, if the bracket just had fallen a little different at EVO, easily could have been in top 3 again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, easily. So,
yeah. No. Now, look, we talk about some other players in long sets like Daigo, but I think that Xian actually has great experience and a good track record in long sets, too. We just mentioned some where he lost, right? He lost to Daigo, he lost to Xiaoai. But even in those, they are mostly close. And when he hasn't played those, for example, at CPT Asia, he blew everybody up, with the exception of Daigo.
Yeah.
Okay, so he himself is good, I think, in long sets. So.
Yeah. So I expect him to do super well. Again, 1st to 7, round robin, so there's no elimination. So we're going to see every single one of these matchups.
Yeah.
This is going to be some incredibly high-level Street Fighter here. Yeah. And the best part about it is we're going to be able to see how these guys adapt.
Yes.
And so that's going to be really, really interesting to watch.
Right. It's fun to watch a 2 out of 3 or a 3 out of 5 because it can be fast.
Yes.
It's unpredictable. But different sort of thing watching a long set because you really get to see how somebody adapts and the sort of the ideas that somebody comes in with and how they leave. It's a different story. Yeah. All those things are very, very fun to watch. So.
Yeah, and that's going to be this coming weekend on twitch.tv/Canada Cup. Obviously, if you can't make it there live, watch on stream. If you can make it there live, definitely try your best to make it there. We just saw a photo of the venue. Looks really nice. Yep. Really, really nice. Like full theater seating kind
nice
of thing
stage.
like that. Yeah, it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah.
So and also as we mentioned, there is the open tournament beforehand for the 8th spot in there. So if you want to see if you can slip your way in there, go for it. Yeah. But it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, that'll be on twitch.tv/Canada Cup. This coming weekend. We'll see you there.